Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. Welcome to the detailed webinar on KiboCUBE. Before we begin, I'd like to explain a few things about the logistics. So first of all, to all participants, please make sure to turn off your cameras and your microphones. Second, if you have any questions or comments, please make sure to put it in the chat. There is a raising your hand system, but for our webinar, we will ask you to put everything in the chat so we can ask and we can collect all the questions and we will answer them all at the end. So as I mentioned earlier, please make sure to write everything in the chat. Also, we will put a questionnaire form link into the chat, so please make sure to answer that before you leave the webinar. Today's agenda is very simple. So first, I will introduce you a little about KiboCUBE. I understand that a lot of you here are already interested in KiboCUBE. You may have participated in one of our past webinars. So I'll try to make my introduction brief. And after that, we will have an introduction to the International Space Station, Kibo, and JAXA from Ms. Yasuko Shibano of JAXA. And after that, we will have about a 45-minute detailed description of the announcement of opportunity and application form. My colleagues Jorge Del Rio Vera and Masayuki Goto will explain really in details about how to write everything into the application form to make your application form look good. And at the end, we will have a question and answer session. So as I mentioned earlier, please make sure to write all your questions in the chat. I understand that some questions may be long and it may be really hard to write it in, but try to summarize it and we'll try to answer it to the best that we can. Okay, so I'd like to take more time for the detailed part, so I'm gonna go through my introduction on KiboCUBE. So I believe many of you are already aware of what KiboCUBE is, but KiboCUBE is a cooperation program between the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, UNOOSA, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, and it has been going on from 2015. And it is implemented under the Access to Space for All initiative, which is an initiative that our office runs. And there are other opportunities that may interest you in the Access to Space for All initiative. So if you're interested, please make sure to check our website about the Access to Space for All initiative. Anyway, going back to KiboCUBE, KiboCUBE aims to provide educational or research institutions from developing countries with opportunities to deploy their CubeSats, the ones that they developed and manufactured from the International Space Station and from the Japanese experiment module, Kibo. So there might be many programs like this, but why KiboCUBE? So CubeSats offer a large variety of applications, and developing a CubeSat is definitely the first step for a country to acquire the skills and know-how to develop a space program. Next, CubeSats are very affordable to develop nowadays, and it represents an achievable entry point to space activities. In this case, in KiboCUBE, JAXA will bear the cost of launch of the CubeSat to the ISS and deployment from Kibo, which means that the participating team will not have to pay for that and will just need to focus on developing their satellite. And what's great about deploying from the ISS is that there's lower vibration, and it's a more friendly environment than launching from a rocket. And the best part is also that you will receive administrative support from our office and technical support from JAXA during the development. So Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, are a very important part of our program. And KiboCUBE as a program contributes to SDGs 4, 8, and 9 by fostering innovation and supporting education and training on skill sets for developing cutting-edge technology. But in our application forms, we will ask you to mention about the link between your project and the SDGs. So for example, if you are going to develop a CubeSat that does water management or something like that, it will relate to one of the SDGs regarding water. So like that, we will ask you to mention a link between your project and the SDGs. So if you're not familiar with the SDGs, please make sure to go to the United Nations website on SDGs. You will find a lot of information on that, and please make sure to really read that and understand and try to link your projects with the SDGs. Next, this is a list of the previous winners that have gone through KiboCUBE. The first two winners, Kenya and Guatemala, have successfully deployed their satellites. Mauritius, Indonesia, Moldova are currently under development right now. And our latest winner, who's SICA, who's an international organization, just kicked off their meeting, their kickoff meeting, so they are now in the development phase. So the KiboCUBE milestone looks a bit like this. The selection schedule will take about 12 months. So you will have 6 months to fill in your applications and send it to us. And during those 6 months, we will provide more webinars, one like this, and also a set of technical webinars called KiboCUBE Academy webinars. And during these 6 months, you will have the opportunity to really understand how to fill in the applications and how to build a project during those webinars. And yeah, you will need to send it in the 6 months. After that, we will take a 1.5 month period to actually go through the applications, and then we will announce a shortlist. And the winners of the shortlist will need to go through secure funding and also to update their applications. They will have about 4.5 months to do that. And at the end, we will announce the finalists. So from the beginning to the announcement of finalists, it will take 12 months, so which is 1 year. After the finalists have been selected, that organization will need to sign a bilateral agreement with JAXA. And it depends on your organizations how long it takes, but yes, you will need to sign an agreement with JAXA. And as soon as that is done, you will be able to have a kickoff meeting and you will start the development schedule, which basically takes about 15 to 18 months. I guess it will differ, but yes, hopefully during the 18 months you'll be done. And during those 18 months, you will need to go through design, assembly, and test phases. And at the end, you will need to submit a safety review to JAXA and make sure that you pass. And when you are done with the safety review, you will be able to hand over the satellite to JAXA. JAXA will launch the satellite to the International Space Station, and after that, you will have the deployment of your satellite. So how to apply for the 6th round of KiboCUBE? As I mentioned, the schedule is a bit lengthy, but for this year, for the 6th round, we just opened the applications on the 10th of December. The deadline will be the 31st of May next year. The selection and notification of the shortlisted entities will be the middle of July. And then after that, the selected entities will need to go through the securement of funding, updating their applications, and that will be submitted on the 31st of October. And then the final selection and notification will come at the beginning of December. You will find all the documents, all the information, and a bunch of related information as well on our website. As you can see, we have a page dedicated for the KiboCUBE 6th round of application, so I hope you can find that web page. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we will have KiboCUBE Academy technical webinars held in the beginning of 2021. It will be starting from the middle of January and also February. We will have 4 webinars for that, so please make sure to check our website and make sure to register for that as well. Also, this year we issued a new brochure about KiboCUBE. It will give you an overall, it will give you a good overall of our program, and also you will be able to read some stories about the past winners. I think this will be helpful for the teams as well, but if you want people to understand about KiboCUBE when you actually go through the funding process, or if you go through any other process in your country, I think this brochure would help you. So please make sure to check that out. I hope my colleague Jorge is putting up the web link for that, but you can also find this on our website. Okay, if you have any inquiries, please make sure to send us an email at UNOOSA@un.org. And basically, all the information is on the website. For this webinar, we are recording. We will make sure to put the recordings and the presentations on the website later this week or maybe next week. So yeah, please make sure to keep checking our website. Okay, this concludes my introduction to KiboCUBE. I will now hand the floor over to Ms. Yasuko Shibano to explain more about the International Space Station, Kibo, and JSOD. Okay, Shibano-san, you have the floor. Yeah, Shibano-san, we can see the presentation. Oh, okay, it's gone now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for coming today. My name is Yasuko Shibano from JAXA.
The presentation is not on the screen anymore.
Okay, I can try.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And as I explained to anyone who has questions, please make sure to write it in the chat. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So my name is Yasuko Shibano from JAXA, and I am an engineer for JSOD mission. In this section, I am going to talk to you about overview of ISS, Kibo, and JSOD. International Space Station is a huge man-made construction located about 400 kilometers above the Earth, and it is stuck around the Earth at a speed of 90 minutes per orbit. The ISS project aims at improving science and technology to enhance life and industries on the ground. 50 countries are participating in the ISS project, including NASA, Russia, ESA, Canada, and Japan, JAXA. And Japan has completed its human space facility, the Japanese experiment module KiboCUBE, and 12 astronauts who will operate the ISS and KiboCUBE at JAXA. KiboCUBE has a pressurized module and an exposed facility, so a variety of missions are conducting both inside and outside KiboCUBE. KiboCUBE has a unique exposed facility with an airlock and a remote manipulator system, and has a high capacity to exchange experimental equipment. One of them is small satellite. One of them is a small satellite orbital deployer called JSOD. In 2012, JAXA developed the unique system JSOD to deploy the satellite and inject the orbit from KiboCUBE. Small satellites are installed in a JSOD case and launched at the ISS by Cygnus, Dragon, or HTV vehicles. Then astronauts mount the JSOD case on the multi-purpose experiment platform inside KiboCUBE. Next, it is transferred into space through the KiboCUBE airlock and deployed small satellite in receiver command from the ground station. The table shows a specification of JSOD. The satellite size is defined as a unit, and one unit is a cube of 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter. The JSOD can be deployed up to 6-year satellite, and 50 class satellites can also be deployed. The ISS is moving in the direction of the plus y-axis. And the satellite will be deployed 45 degrees backwards for the duration in which the ISS is moving. The maximum deployment velocity is 1.7 meters per second, and the speed change depends on the mass of the satellite. Next, I would like to explain the deployment mechanisms of JSOD. There are big spring and separation mechanisms on the JSOD case. As the satellite is loaded, the big spring is compressing, and the satellites are kept in the case by the door. When the separation mechanism receives the command, the separation mechanism moves and the door is opened. Finally, the satellite in the case pushed by the spring and deployed. Small satellites are attracting considerable attention because of their short-term, low-cost development. They are suitable for first-time users and as a first step towards developing a large satellite to solve a social problem. Since the deployment cost is low, small satellites can be used as an educational tool and challenging missions. And then small satellite can be deployed in about 1 or 2 years, and about 1 year of operation is expected. Therefore, even college students can experience the whole process of satellite deployment and operation. And you can get quick return on your business in investment, technology demonstration, and so on. In addition, practical remote sensing data can be obtained from small satellites. It means that sufficient data can be obtained even with low cost and short-term development. This graph plots the number of small satellites released in each year. In 2012, the JSOT have started the satellite deployment. Since that time, the number of small satellite deployment worldwide appears to have begun to increase. JSOT, as well as NASA and other American companies, deployed small satellites from Kibo using their own deployment mechanisms. The total number of satellites deployed from Kibo for each year is shown in this the table. The left column shows the number of small satellites released worldwide, and the right column shows the number of satellites released from Kibo. From Kibo. We can see that Kibo has deployed a significant number of satellites. By November 2020, 267 satellites have been successfully deployed from Kibo. Furthermore, 43 satellites released from Kibo were using JSOT. We hope that Kibo will be used by many more small satellite missions, and the number of satellite deployment is expected to increase in the future. Finally, I explain how to developed satellite, deployed satellite will be transferred and released. First, the developed CubeSat is installed on JSOT case, and then packed into a cargo transferred bag. Then they are transferred to NASA and launched as pressurized cargo by rocket. Because of CTB bag, the vibration environment is lower than that of the rocket, and other environments, for example, temperature and so on, are more friendly during launch. After the JSOT case arrived on the ISS, astronauts mount the JSOT case on the platform. And then the platform is carried out of the ISS through the airlock. And then the robot arm carries into the deployment position, and satellite will be deployed. The operational commands to move the robot arm and to deploy the satellite are sent from the ground. Our flight control team and engineering team are in perfect condition and will support deployment from the ground. The size of the satellite is small, but the mission is made possible by many support members. Okay, thank you for your kind attention. We are hoping to see many institutes institutions apply for the sixth round of the KiboCUBE. And JAXA is looking forward to supporting your challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yasuko-san, for the very detailed explanation about the International Space Station, Kibo, and JSOD. Next, I'd like to get into the details of the application form and the application of the announcement of opportunity. I would like to introduce my colleague Jorge Del Rio Vera to get in the details for that. And we will have Masayuki Goto from JAXA helping him on that way as well. So, Jorge, if you're ready.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Suki. Thank you all for joining us today. It's really a pleasure to have you all here. So let me share my screen. I'm going to share the screen, the raw screen, so I can switch between different documents that I have. So let me. Now you can see my screen, and let's start with here. So you already got an introduction of KiboCUBE and to the Kibo module in the International Space Station. As it has been mentioned this morning, so KiboCUBE is a partnership that the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs and JAXA are providing, the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency are providing in order for developing countries, institutions in developing countries to deploy a satellite CubeSat, one new CubeSat from the Kibo module. This opportunity has been going for quite some time. We already had 5 rounds. This is the 6th round, and we already had 6 winners. You can see the winners in the screen, and they were presented before by my colleague Hazuki. So we are really looking forward for your application to be there added to this slide. This slide belongs to the KiboCUBE brochure that was mentioned earlier. So before I start diving into the different details, KiboCUBE is part of a larger initiative, which is Access to Space for All. And the goal of that initiative, if you have been attending webinars, previous webinars of the office, you already know, is to provide access to infrastructure or facilities that normally are difficult or very costly to access by some countries. It's providing the opportunities, hands-on opportunities to utilize those facilities. So we are talking always about hands-on opportunities. And the way that the initiative looks like today is what you have in the screen. We have different tracks. KiboCUBE belongs to the satellite development track, which aims at allowing or providing the capability to countries to deploy satellites in orbit to get to that stage. You see that there are some identified gaps. We are working hard to fill those in. But KiboCUBE already provides you the opportunity to deploy a CubeSat in orbit. So you develop your CubeSat, and KiboCUBE allows you to deploy the CubeSat in orbit. All the opportunities here are provided in partnership with different entities. Partners are very important for us. And JAXA is really, really very important and a long-standing partner of the initiative. And we are really, really thankful to JAXA for having cooperating with us for so many years. Sorry. So if I understand that I have seen quite a few people in the chat. If you want to advertise the work that we are doing, please use those hashtags in your social media. That helps us in reaching more people with the opportunities. If you want to advertise KiboCUBE, please use those 2 hashtags. KiboCUBE is very important. So people that is not in the webinar, or people that don't know but is following you in your social media, can get to know about the program and eventually can apply. The idea is that we are getting the information of these opportunities to the maximum number of people as possible. And then, okay, let's go to to the important part. So what you're here for, which is how to build a successful application form. So the first tip that I can give you, and it's repeated 3 times in the slide, is check the documentation, check the documentation, check the documentation. All the information that you need is in the documentation that is provided in the website. Have a really close look to that. In addition to that, we have made other documents accessible and other videos accessible of previous webinars that are helping you to build a better application. And let me show you how to find those. So if you go to the internet, you go to the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs webpage, or you search in a search engine, access to space for all UNOOSA or United Nations, you will get a link that drives you to this page. The link is here. Why I'm pointing you to this page? Well, this page contains something that is, well, a part of containing information about the different opportunities, so you can jump directly to the different opportunities here. You have information of webinars and opportunities, so you can go to the useful tips, which is a collection of webinars that we have been doing to help you building a better application. In our application, we are asking you to build a communication plan. We are asking you to be mindful and to obey to international space law and guidelines. You can get information from previous winners. So, for instance, if you want to know more about how to raise awareness and build a communication plan, you can come here, go to how to raise awareness about your project, and you have different videos from people that is working in different communication media that is providing you tips. And you also have a lot of questions that can guide you and help you in building a better application with respect to the communication plan. So this is a very, very, very useful resource. So if you go to the KiboCUBE page, there you have a lot of testimonies of people that have already taken have won already the opportunity. The brochure that has been mentioned several times, which gives you a high-level overview of what KiboCUBE is, and then the 6th round application page. So you go to the application page, and there you find all the documentation that you need. You have a lot of reference material. You have actually the webinar that we are doing today. There will be a series of webinars coming up just to help you even more with the design process, with your engineering process, which is called KiboCUBE Academy. Again, it's an initiative of JAXA together with the Office for Outer Space Affairs and Japanese universities. And we will be really happy if we can see you there, because that will really help you in getting your engineering part right. So in here there are very important documents that you have to take a very careful look at. And the first document you have to carefully read is the announcement opportunity. So I have highlighted several parts of the announcement opportunity here. The announcement opportunity was published on the 10th of December, so we are talking about six days ago. And well, it's giving you general information about the opportunity, right? It's giving you the information about the deadline of the applications. Be mindful that the deadline for application is the 31st of May next year. It may look like a lot of time. It is not. You have to work a lot into your application. So don't leave it to the last minute, because it will not work. You will not simply have the time. Start working at it now. That's very important. And there will be preselected applicants that will be notified about the outcome, and those preselected applicants, well, they will have to continue working in order to secure the funding. And it was presented before. For this particular announcement opportunity, we are selecting a maximum of 2 entities, and each entity can deploy a 1 new CubeSat, 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter CubeSat. What is covered in these opportunities, well, is in section 8. I invite you heavily and I encourage you to read the whole announcement opportunity very carefully. I'm scanning here through different parts, but please read it very carefully. So what we are providing here is the opportunity of deploying the CubeSat, and the deployment is free of charge. What is not covered in the opportunity is the building of the CubeSat, is the engineering process, is the people, is the testing that you have to put. But the deployment, and that's a significant cost, is covered by the opportunity. So if you have already started working in a CubeSat, this is a great opportunity for you to utilize for the deployment. If you have not, this is also a wonderful opportunity, because through webinars like this, and the webinars that we will be running in January, early next year, on the KiboCUBE Academy, you will get the knowledge to start actually getting your engineering process right and apply and take advantage of the opportunity. You have time. Don't leave it for the last minute, as I said before, but you have time, and if you can start thinking now, looking at the videos, looking at all the documentation, then you are ready for the KiboCUBE Academy webinars that are happening in January and the beginning of February, and that can help you boost in your application quite a bit. Oops. So there in the announcement opportunity, you have the schedule. Have a look at the schedule. As I said, you have to submit your applications by the 31st of May. That's a hard deadline. If you are coming in June with an application, let's say the 1st of June, the 2nd of June with an application saying, well, I have an application, but I missed the deadline, it's too bad. We don't concede extensions. You will be rescheduled to the next round. There will be another round coming after this one, and you can apply for that one. But this is an opportunity to do it now. Then, as we mentioned, you will have to update you will have time from the 31st of May, if you have been preselected, to update your application with additional information. Mainly financial information is what we are requesting in that update period. And then the final notification of the winners will happen by the end of next year, on the 1st of December, sorry. The preparation period, so after you have been notified that you are the winner, is typically 15 to 18 months to basically prepare the CubeSat, design it, implement it, and test it. And there are a number of reviews that will have to happen, but we will cover that in the application form. Okay, so let's go to the application form. I don't know if Goto-san would like to add something to what I'm saying. I'm really talking a lot, so Goto-san, please interrupt me when you feel the need. Okay, I take that as a no. So let me go to the application form. Okay, so when you open the application form, and that's very easy, it's there. You have the announcement opportunity in the web page of the 6th round. You have the mission application template, so this is the application form that you have to fill in, and you have other documents that are applicable. So we are talking now about the application form here. So the application form is self-explanatory. We have tried to give you as much guidance as we could. Of course, we are having this webinar to provide you a few more tips and to explain things that might not be clear. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to add your questions in the chat. We are here for that. But we have tried that the application form is really self-explanatory. So you will have mandatory fields and optional fields in the application form. They are marked with the code M and the code O. For the optional fields, if your CubeSat design have requirements or have a particular design or particular instrument that requires those sections that are optional, those sections become mandatory for your CubeSat. I mean, it might be not necessary for other CubeSats, but if it is necessary, if you feel that that section is necessary for your CubeSat, please fill it in. We have included text boxes here and small descriptions of each of the sections. If there are information that you don't have yet available, but we are asking for it, put TBD. So we know that it's not something that you have forgotten, it's something that you don't know at the time of writing the application. We want to see that. And there are several information about the format. Please submit your application in PDF and don't generate the PDF by scanning, by printing your application and then scanning it to a PDF. No, convert your application from Word or whatever editor that you are using into PDF directly. You go to File and from there you convert it into PDF. Please don't send us a printed and scanned version of the print. That will be really difficult and will complicate the selection process and the selection of your application a lot. Then you have a table of contents there. I'm going to go through the different parts that I consider are relevant, and I can provide more information. We can provide more information. So let me start. Okay. So the first page is about basic information. You select which type of institution you are. The institutions that are eligible are mentioned in the application form, in the announcement opportunity. So go to the announcement opportunity to see whether your institution is eligible or not. You mark it here. You put a title, normally the name of the satellite, or the name of the satellite with some additional words that you want to put here. It's a project title, so don't write a book. It's just very short. Then here is the time that you have to write a summary. And this is a summary of your application, of all the fields of your application. This is a summary of, okay, the application is about a CubeSat, so you have to explain a little bit the CubeSat, what is the purpose, the country, why it's important for the country, things like the communication plan, what are you planning to do, things like relevance to sustainable development goals, things like how you are complying with international space law and guidelines. It's very short, it's 150 words, so you don't have time to write a lot. But this is a summary of your application, the aspects that you consider that are more important that we need to know when we are opening your application. This is the first part that we are looking at. So all the information that you want to provide as first look goes in there. Please don't go beyond the 150 words. The intention is that this is a summary, is not a replication of your application. Then this page is very important for us, the certificate page. Here, this is the only page that you can scan and send it to us scan. That's important. Because why? There are signatures in here. And we are asking also to put seals of the organization. So if let's say that you are from a university and there is a professor that is going to guide a team of students to submit an application from KiboCUBE. Okay, the principal or the project coordinator would be that professor. And inventing, it depends on the type of organization that you are and the type of team that you are mounting and everything. So this is just an example. So in this example of a university, with a professor that is leading a team of students, the project coordinator is the person responsible for this project, for the project of this KiboCUBE. Let's call it KiboSat. So for KiboSat, the person that is going to be responsible, the person that we have to contact in case we need additional information of the person that will be our main interface. That's the project coordinator here. So that person has to sign. Also, the head of the organization where the project coordinator is working at. So let's say in that particular example is a university, so the head of the university can be the dean of that particular faculty or directly the overall responsible for the university. It depends on the universities in the world have different structures. So the responsible for that entity, again, it has to sign. So that's why it is important that you are scanning this. We want the signatures. And then the seal of the organization has to be here. So that's why this page is very important for us. It allows us to check about the validity of the application. If there are more organizations than one, so there is a team of 2 universities that are working together in this application, that's perfect, that works. You can utilize the information below. What we are asking for is that there is one person responsible who is the project coordinator, but there can be as many organizations involved in the project as possible, as you deem necessary. You will need to get, for the head of the second organization, if there is a second organization, the same information, also the seal of the second organization. Again, this information is providing more details because before is basically names and signatures. Here we are asking for additional details and additional details concerning the satellite. So which is the country that is going to register the satellite. So you will have to read the documentation about satellite registration that is in the website, and I'm going to pop it up very fast. So you have here in the web page of the 6th round guidance on space object registration. So this is the place where you have to look at if you want to understand what satellite registration means. Country from where the operations will be conducted, because a satellite is not just you put it in orbit, you forget. No, it doesn't work like that. It's in orbit and it's doing something meaningful. I don't know. It's transmitting data. It's communications. It's taking pictures of the Earth. It's measuring the ionosphere, the ions from the sun. It can be doing many different things. So depending on where you are conducting the operations that are getting the satellite to measure what it's supposed to measure or to communicate what it's supposed to communicate, you have to put it here. That's a country from where those operations are conducted. If there is more than one country, just use the box, identify the different countries where that's happening. And then, okay, there is, I see a typo here. Is the first satellite of the country, yes or no? So we want to know if it is the first satellite of the country. And then the team composition. We start with the project coordinator. We want to know about the project coordinator and also about the team, the different team members. What we are asking here is, I mean, it's basic information again. If there are papers that the project coordinator has published related to satellites, or satellite development, or the utilization of satellite data, because maybe this mission is going to take, I don't know, pictures of lakes to measure water quality. So if this person has been doing research on water quality utilizing Earth observation, those papers can be also listed here. Papers that are relevant to this proposal, that are related to the proposal itself. We understand that in universities, in research institutions, there are a lot of papers that are published, and maybe the project coordinator has been doing research in fields that have nothing to do with the application. We don't want the curriculum. This is not to evaluate the curriculum of that person. It's to know the aspects of that curriculum that are relevant to the application. And you here have mini CV. That's the idea. It's mini because it depends on the person, but we don't want the whole CV. We just want the parts of the CV that are relevant to the application. That's the important part. The same for the other team members. We are asking exactly the same information for each of the team members. You can replicate, because we understand that it can be made more than one team member. So you just replicate this section as necessary. You have 10 team members, just copy this section 10 times, this table 10 times, no problem. Then you come to a proposal abstract, which is about the CubeSat. Here we are talking about the CubeSat. So you remember in the beginning we have the executive summary, which is about your application. You summarize what you want us to see first of your application, which are the headlines that you want to give us about your application. Here it is about the CubeSat. Tell us about your CubeSat. Tell us about the objectives of your CubeSat and the aim of that CubeSat. You have a little bit of more space here, 300 watts. You can, for instance, there are some CubeSat that are used in a country not only as the primary mission of the CubeSat, that might be measure water quality, for instance, sorry, but also is used as an opportunity for education. Okay, so if you are going to use your CubeSat also for educational purposes, and we hope that you are doing so, you just explain that also here. And this is about what you are doing with your CubeSat. And then we go to a little bit more technical part. Here, the mission statement of your CubeSat. So, what your CubeSat is about. So, CubeSat is going to be measuring water quality to improve the water quality detection capabilities in country X. Perfect. And again, normally we expect that, because this is normally the first CubeSat of a country, that you are also using that opportunity for capacity building. So also state how the CubeSat is contributing to capacity building. So the details on how you are doing the different things are not going here. There are sections for that. Here we want, okay, we are doing this for this country because it's important for us in this sense, and we are also utilizing this opportunity for education, and we are targeting, I don't know, middle school and high school students. Perfect. That's the type of information we want here. Then the objectives of your CubeSat. You normally the missions have different objectives, so primary and secondary objectives. Normally, first primary objective is, okay, getting the CubeSat in orbit and working, getting telemetry of the satellite. I mean, that can be a first objective, a primary objective if it is your first satellite. Those are the things that you will be ticking. The primary ones are the ones that you will be ticking, and you want all them ticked to declare your mission a success. So the primary objectives are defining the success of your mission. You have to achieve normally all the primary objectives to declare a mission successful. And then secondary objectives are things that are okay, nice to have, and good additions. I mean, you are going for those also for the secondary objectives, but it's not your main goal. It's not your primary objectives. Please, when you are describing the objectives, use the SMART. Make the objectives specific, that are measurable and achievable, relevant, and that they have a time span. I mean, if you are launching the satellite, let's say today, well, receive telemetry from the satellite within a week. Maybe after a week, well, the satellite will not be working anymore because of the way the EPS electronic, the power subsystem works. Well, the power subsystem. So you have a time bound for some of the actions. So please, if those exist, just specify them in the objectives. Then we have another part here, which is very important for us. We want to see this well done when you are submitting your application. I mean, we want to see the whole application well done, but we are paying a lot of importance to this. Sorry. The Sustainable Development Goals. So let me go back to my presentation. So I guess that many of you have seen already the Sustainable Development Goals, and a banner like this, which is used normally to advertise the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and they are part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development that was put forward by the General Assembly of the United Nations in 2015, and the period of starting measuring the progress towards the goals starting on the 1st of January 2016. Sorry, we have until 2030 to achieve the goals. And you see the goals there. You see, well, no poverty, zero hunger. They are very high level. These high level goals at goal level is to give you an idea of what all the countries are trying to achieve. For knowing the specifics, you have to go below. The Sustainable Development Goals are structured in a way that you have the goals, first level. Under the goals, you have targets. There are 169 targets that are linked to the different goals, so they are underpinning the 17 goals. And under the targets, you have indicators, 231 unique indicators. So in order to establish the link between your CubeSat and the Sustainable Development Goals, don't stay at the goal level, which is the higher level. I mean, it's very high level. It's too high level for what we want. Go to the level below, the level of the targets. And let me show you how targets look like. And there, I guess that you don't see anything because it's very small. But this is Sustainable Development Goal number 2. Which is zero hunger. Let me try to get this a little bit bigger in the slide, so you can see it better. And I'm messing a little bit with the formatting, but there you have a better view. So, for instance, under Sustainable Development Goal number 2, you have target 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and there are a few. Under each target, you see there is another tab here, indicators. And by the way, you can get to the page describing the different goals in the link that is shown up there. So, for instance, here, target 2.3, it's talking about agricultural productivity. Okay, so we are in zero hunger, but this specific target, 2.3, is talking about agricultural productivity. So maybe you want to use this opportunity, your CubeSat, to measure, to monitor crops. Maybe, or maybe, I mean, you don't get to that resolution. Or maybe you want to use that CubeSat for providing a communication platform or to disseminate information to farmers. Okay, so then you are connecting to target 2.3. You are trying with this CubeSat to improve agricultural productivity. How? Well, maybe you are providing information to farmers through radio that there is a storm coming, or there is a drought season that is expected, or any information that can help them to manage their crops and improve their agricultural productivity. Or maybe you are just providing tips to farmers. Imagination is the limit. So the only thing that we want in that part of your application, let me go back to the application, is that you are indicating how your CubeSat is contributing to the different Sustainable Development Goals. And we want an explanation, and we want detailed explanations. I was here inventing, but we really want to see the connection, and we want to see a clear connection to the Sustainable Development Goals. Note that KiboCUBE more or less by default, is contributing to quality education. I mean, this is supposed to be a program to create capacity in a country, to develop the skills in a country. So we are talking about quality education. Go and check the different targets and the quality education. We are talking about decent work and economic growth, and we are talking about innovation. So SDG 8 and SDG 9. Go and check the Sustainable Development Goals. You also have a link to the Sustainable Development Goals, the one that I was showing before in the web page. You have it here in your application form. So use it. All the resources that we are putting there is to help you. So use them. I'm sorry. So section 4.4 is about outcomes and deliverables that you are planning to create out of this application and out of the process of implementing and operating the CubeSat. Sorry, I need a little bit of water. So this is where you explain your outcomes and your deliverables. I mean, the tangible things that your CubeSat is going to be leaving to the country. And if you want, what is the novelty? Well, if you want, is mandatory. The novelty, uniqueness, and possible evolutions of your CubeSat. I mean, what are you envisaging for the future? Not only for the CubeSat, but also for the activities that you are defining in the application. I mean, it helps us to understand the vision that you have towards the future. If, and this is why it's an optional field, it is a cooperation between different entities. You have to explain here what is the role of the different entities there. Well, let's say that you are cooperating with another entity that has test facilities, and you are working with that entity in testing. Well, we want to see that that relationship here, that you are cooperating. Maybe you are just cooperating with them in testing. Okay, well, they are not submitting an application, but they are providing you access to their testing facilities. Well, we would like to see all the cooperations that you have also listed in the application. If they are not signing the application, so I'm referring to section 1.3, they don't have to fill that in here, but please use other fields, and we will see those later in the application. Use those fields to let us know as much as we can. If there is international cooperation stemming out of this application, we want to know that. If you are cooperating with other entities, we want to know that. And this, for instance, is a possibility where you can indicate that, the work breakdown structure. So you take, you can find more information about a work breakdown structure is. It's basically dividing the work into different work packages that are smaller tasks that have to be completed, smaller work packages that have to be completed towards the realization of the CubeSat. If you have cooperation in those work packages from other entities, I mean, we would be very grateful that you are indicating that cooperation in the work breakdown structure. It's a mandatory field, so utilize it. Unlike the other one, which is if there are two entities submitting the application, this is a mandatory field, so use this one to explain the assistance or the help that you are getting from other institutions that are not submitting the application. It's really useful for us. And then we are talking about requirements here, and I'm going to stop for a second just to drink a little bit more water. I don't know, Goto-san, if you would like to say something at this stage, please don't hesitate while I'm getting a little bit of water.
Okay, I don't have any comment so far, but I want to add the information about the interface requirement at section 482. So I want to give you information at this section.
Okay. Thank you. So Here you specify your mission requirements. Mission requirements are the things, requirements are things that are subject to test. Okay, so you are going to be either testing or validation. If you are going to, if you have one requirement, we are expecting that that's linked to test cases. There are some high-level requirements that are basically fulfilled when there are other low-level requirements fulfilled. So make the connections between requirements, but we want to see basically the flow down. No? You have requirements, and then maybe you have mission requirements that are supported by design requirements, and those design requirements are associated and tested in a specific manner in your test plan. So we want to see which requirement is tested in which manner, or validated in which manner. Here you have the requirements about the mission. Please take into account the debris mitigation guidelines. It's very important for us that you are explaining how you are tackling the problem of space debris, and the debris mitigation guidelines are the place that can guide you on what things you need to do. So we want to see also debris mitigation in your mission requirements. It's important for us that your mission is also trying to to support the long-term sustainability of outer space. Then we are talking about design requirements. Here you have a reference, which is the GEM Payload Accommodation Handbook. That document is here. So we are referring to documents that are available. So go and check this document. Let me open it for you. I think I have it open already. Oops. You already have the requirements that are applicable to your CubeSat. I mean, all these requirements are applicable because you are going to use the JSON deployer. So, I mean, there are things like dimensions. There are things like well-coordinated system that you want to maintain. There are things about interface requirements, and Koto-san will explain you about those. So have a very close look to this document. I mean, this document is very important. We are talking about a one new CubeSat. So, for instance, the maximum weight of your CubeSat is there. I mean, you have other documents that are also explaining that. But this document is key, is essential to help you design in your CubeSat, because you have to interface. It's not your CubeSat alone. You have to interface with the JSON, which is the deployer, and that deployer has specific requirements to be fulfilled in order for not to be damaged, in order to work properly, in order to deploy your satellite safely in an adequate manner. So have a very close look to this document, GEM Accommodation Payload. It's very important. Sorry.
Jorge,
Yes.
can I add the information?
Please.
Yes. As Jorge said, this document is one of the most important document. The all recommend regarding to the JSON is incorporated this document. So please read in detail prior to application. And can you show the website?
Yes.
Of the yes. No.
The document.
Web page listed.
Okay, let me go back here. This one.
Yes. Unfortunately, this link is go to the GEM Payload Accommodation Handbook interface document, but the latest version is only written in Japanese. So this link go to previous version in English. So we are going to update the English version as soon as possible. So please check this site out continuously. We will update soon.
Goto-san, can you tell a little bit more about the updates? Because I could understand that there is people that is going to get, but that is probably worried about big changes in the document. And can you say something about the updated version?
Okay. Can you open the handbook?
Yes.
Yes, and go up to JSON picture. No, go down. Oh, yes. Yeah, this is a picture of the JSON, and this revision C shows that the 3U launcher, the satellite install case deployed and by 3U size, 3 of the 1U satellite. However, we will launch the new version of the JSON that is that can deploy the 6U size satellite, and the new version of the JSON can be installed the satellite on orbit. So that case is reusable. So the specification of the JSON between the previous version and the new type of the JSON is different. So the latest version, revision D, it describes the specification of the new version of the JSON. So some requirement regarding the new type is included on the revision D. So for example, someone installed the deployment switches to be turned off the satellite before deployment. The requirement for the position of the deployment switch is different between the revision C and revision D. So some requirement is changed from the revision C. So please check the requirement when the revision D is updated on the website.
That's very important that you are looking at the most updated version. It's true that there will be, I mean, when you are preparing your application, you have to have a very careful look at this document, and there might be things that are changing. Hopefully those things are not very big things affecting the design that you are submitting in your application, and you can fine-tune that design later. You are not building the satellite when you are submitting your application. You are starting to build your satellite once you have been selected. So you can fine-tune those updated requirements later. Maybe Goto-san, can you say something about the timeline for the document, if you have information on that, so people can know?
Yes, probably it takes 1 month from now to translate Japanese to English. So hopefully we will publish the latest English version in January.
Perfect.
So hopefully we will show the technical. We will show the latest version of the handbook in English version during the technical webinar and in Japanese January.
So as you can see, I mean, even if there is an update, the document that is there in the website, it gives you a good feeling of what you need to fulfill. You of course have to respect the latest version because the deployer is being updated. So in January you will have that version, but take the time now until the new version is provided to familiarize with the document, because the structure of the document and many of the requirements will not change. So take the opportunity now to start getting familiar with this document. And you will have it, as Goto-san mentioned, you will have it very soon. Yes? Yes. Okay, that was okay, so we are talking about design requirements. For the design requirements, please go to the accommodation handbook, the GEM accommodation payload accommodation handbook. That will give you a good feeling of which are the design requirements that you have to include here, and other design requirements that you have for the CubeSat. I mean, it's not that you are making a copy paste of Annex B1 of the document. We want to see also design requirements that are applicable for your CubeSat. We advise this numbering. Of course, you can use a different one, but we found this very convenient, because if you have to update later on your design requirements while you are working, I mean, you go through the engineering phase, and maybe you are doing some updates. You feel the need that you need additional requirements. You can insert it without breaking the numbering that you have. So you can, if you have 10 and 20 in the beginning, when you are submitting your application and you need to include a few more, you can have 11, 12, and the links that you have between the different documents that you are using to manage your project will not break. So we advise this numbering. Then operational requirements. For example, how you are tracking your satellite during X hours a day or X minutes a day. How much power is the satellite going to be transmitting? So you are designing and you are putting requirements on your ground station. So the requirements that will be kicking in operations, those are the ones that you have to include here in operational requirements. Maybe you need 2 daily contacts with the satellite for the satellite to continue working. Well, that's a requirement. If not, the satellite stops working. So you include that in an operation. That would be an operational requirement. And then we go to the very, very specific and detailed description of the CubeSat. This section is very, very self-explanatory. Again, we are asking you for information regarding your CubeSat, detailed information. So main specifications, you see here dimensions. The dimensions are what they are for a 1U CubeSat. That will not change. Also the weight, you have a maximum weight of 1.33 kilograms. So if your satellite is less, it's perfect. You just include the mass there. What is the value, the specification that you have for your CubeSat? If your mass is 5 kilos, you are already in reach of requirements that are imposed by the GEM payload accommodation handbook. So that's a breach, and that will not work. Then 3D views of your satellite.
Jorge,
Yes.
I want to add the information. Someone is not familiar with the ballistic coefficient, but the handbook interface requirement describes how to calculate the ballistic coefficient. So please confirm the calculation method of the ballistic coefficient. That's it.
Jorge, I think we're losing you. You think you can reconnect or? Okay, I guess while Jorge is trying to reconnect, since he is sharing the screen and we can't change it, I will share my screen from where he left off. please give me a.
Sorry, I think I cut.
Okay, great. I was
I'm
going to
back.
share my screen, but you're back. So yeah, you can start where you left off.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. That's the proof that we are here live. So, so I was saying that these sections here are very self-explanatory. I mean, you have 3D view, external dimensions. If there are in the external dimensions, if there are protruding elements, protruding objects in your design, you have to indicate those here. We need to see those. That's very important for us to assess and for JAXA to assess the fitness of your design to the JSON. Then we want a block diagram of your satellites, of the different subsystems, and how they are related to each other, and the list of components. If you have, I mean, of course, it's very difficult sometimes at the time of your application to provide a full, complete, detailed list of components. This is where the TBD applies, where I mentioned in the beginning. If there is something that you don't know, I mean, you say here, okay, for instance, we want to design the EPS, the electric power system, and there are components we know what we want, but we don't know exactly which components we are going to use for this particular part. Okay, then there you say, okay, TBD, we know that you are taking that into account. We would appreciate a product breakdown structure. So you have the product, which is the CubeSat, with the different subsystems and how there are different parts contributing to those subsystems. So that also helps us in understanding how you are designing the satellite and which is the level where you have issues to get, because I mean you're applying, maybe you don't have all the information. So sorry, it helps us to understand your design and your components. Another thing that is important here is that if you are making custom-made components, if you are making some of the components of the satellite, we want to see that. We want that you specify, okay, we plan to buy this component, maybe a camera, okay? The intention is that we are buying from this provider, and it's COTS. Or we have an optics laboratory in a university, again I'm inventing, or in the research institution, and we want to use the hardware that they have created. Okay, fine, we want to see that. We want to understand that. Then interfaces. There are many interfaces in your satellite. I mean, the satellite has to interface different things. It has to interface the vacuum of space. It has to interface with the ground station. It has to interface with the JSOT. So you have mechanical description. You have electrical description there on the interface. You have description of how the thermal interface is going to work to keep the temperature of the satellite in the operational range, and your communications interface with the ground. And then we have the different subsystems, and sometimes these subsystems are talking to each other. Or are related to each other. So we want the detailed description of the different subsystems. The mechanical and structural subsystem is basically what is holding the whole satellite together. There are things like antennas that are part of the structure of the satellite. There are the solar panels. So we want to see that in here, even if because they are contributing to the structure of the satellite. Even if, for instance, the solar panels will be contributing to the EPS. So focus in this particular section 5.2.41 on the structure, things that are keeping the satellite together. Then the different subsystems that you have here are more or less self-explanatory, and they are the typical subsystems that you can find in a satellite. You have the electrical power subsystem, which is basically keeping the satellite up and running, providing the necessary power for the satellite to work. Normally here there are batteries. We want to see information about the batteries. And this is important. The batteries are important because if you are looking at the space debris mitigation guidelines, you see guidelines on what to do with the batteries once the life of the satellite is ended. So relate, check all the documentation that we are providing, because there are some elements of some of the documentation that we are providing that are related to the different subsections here. You have to read all the documentation. Thermal subsystems, so how you are keeping the temperature of the satellite in the operational range. Of course, the satellite is going to the illuminated part of the orbit and the shadowed part of the orbit, and there are big temperature differences. So how you are managing to convert those, or to handle those temperature differences so that the satellite doesn't go off and doesn't burn or freeze and it doesn't work anymore. Additional information, the communication subsystem, how you are communicating and which are the elements. For instance, here you are describing antennas of your CubeSat. How you are commanding the satellite and handling the data in the satellite. If there are compression that you are using in the satellite, for instance, you are taking pictures, but those pictures, because the camera has a very high resolution, are very big and you cannot handle. Maybe you have compression of the data before you are sending it to ground. So we want to see all that also in here. If you are recording information in the satellite to transmit it then to ground later, that's the information we want to see in here. How you are handling the data and how you are commanding, providing the commands to the satellite, and which type of commands you are expecting. How you are determining the attitude of the satellite and how you are controlling that attitude. Attitude is the way the satellite is orientated in space. So if you, of course, you have a mission that is taking pictures to determine water quality, you want that the camera is pointing to the Earth and not to the space, or taking pictures of the ISS. That's not what you want. So you want to control how the satellite is orientated in space, and that's the purpose of the attitude determination and control system. So we want to understand how you are doing that, and there are many different ways of doing that. So we just want to understand your way, the way you envisage. In case you have propulsion or you are orbiting, normally satellites are deployed from the ISS, but the ISS is roughly 400 kilometers from the ground. They deorbit in the period of 1 to 2 years. Between 1 and 2 years, the satellite deorbits. It depends on the ballistic coefficient, but normally that's the time period. So there is no need for propulsion or to deorbit the satellite. It will deorbit naturally. But if you want to include that because you want to test a propulsion system that you have developed in your research institution, that's welcome. You just include it here. And then describe your payload. So the payload is basically the part of the satellite that is helping to fulfill the mission of the satellite, and part of the primary objectives of the satellite. And if you have any additional feature of the CubeSat, well, this is the place for it. I mean, if there is something that you are testing that is not covered by the sections before, or something that you are putting in your CubeSat that is not covered in the sections before, you can put it there. And then the concept.
Okay.
Yes.
I want the information about the structure and the mechanical subsystems. Yes, if the satellite has a deployable mechanism, such as expanding the solar panel after it deployed from the JSOT, please, we need the the information about that deployable mechanism at section 5241 structure and mechanical subsystems. So please add the information about expanding the antenna or expanding the solar panel or something.
Yeah, that's very important. All the information that you can provide, and we provide guidance in the description, please provide. It's really helpful for us to evaluate your application. If we cannot evaluate what we don't see, and if we don't see something that we deem important because we have seen that your design is taking into account something, and we don't see it flow down into, for instance, the subsystems, then we get worried because we think that there are elements that you have not taken into consideration for the design, and that's not good, because we will not know. Maybe you have that tackled, but if we don't see it in the application, we will not be able to know. So please include all the information that you can in the different sections. And as Goto-san said, mechanisms as deployment of solar panels and antennas, and they're included here in the description. Descriptions are general, so there might be things that you want to tell us that are not included in the description, and that's perfectly fine. We have tried to capture the main elements in the description, but there could be things that for your particular design that are not there. Include them. If you are in doubt whether to include information or not about a particular section, include it. Thank you. No, thank you for that. That's really important. So concept of operations. So how you are going to operate the satellite. Maybe you are operating the satellite only with on the illuminated side of the orbit, or you are only operating the satellite when it's passing over your country, or maybe you are using ground stations that are distributed around the globe because you have partners to track your satellite, or to downlink data, or to send commands to the satellite. We want to understand how you are intending to operate the satellite. The concept of operation is it has to cover from the moment the satellite is deployed until the moment the satellite is burned into the atmosphere. So there are different stages there. Maybe you have a commissioning phase, maybe you have an operation phase, maybe you have different types of operation modes, and then you have a decommissioning phase. We want to see all the way you are envisaging the operations during those different phases in your application. That's very important for us. And you can break it. And this application form in general is a guidance. What we are asking you is that you don't change the sections that are already there, but if you want to break down a particular section into subsections, that's perfectly fine. If it's helping you into organizing your application better, it certainly will help us in understanding your logic. Then information about the communication links. Okay, I need to update this marker date. So information about the communication links, frequencies, data rate, it's something that you include here. Maybe you are using two different communication links, two different frequencies to do different things. You are using one for commanding the satellite, another frequency to downlink the data. Perfect, no problem. You include that information in here. Information about the ground segment, how you are expecting to downlink the data. You will have a station in ground which will have antenna, but maybe you have also processing station for the data that you are acquiring. And if we are going back to the example of water quality, maybe when you get the data down to Earth, you need to process that data in order to get the parameters of water quality that you're looking for. So that's part of the ground segment. We want to see that. Or if you are distributing the information of the data that you are acquiring to the world, that's the way you are distributing that data. That's also part of the ground segment. maybe you have a server that people can access. But, I mean, I'm just inventing, but that's those are the things that we want to see in the ground segment. The equipment that you have in ground to support the CubeSat that is in orbit. Safety, again, reference to the GEM payload accommodation handbook. Go to the handbook. There are safety requirements in there that will be applicable here. So we want to see how you're tackling those. And this part is also about any technical heritage that you have concerning your satellite. For instance, in your university research institution, there is there have been a lot of work on water quality. Perfect. I mean, that's work that you have been doing that you will be capitalizing upon when you are you have your CubeSat in orbit. Well, we want to see that information in here. All the things that you have done that supports the work that you are planning to do with the CubeSat. Goto-san, I don't know if you would like to add something for this section 5.
I don't have any additional information, but I'm really bit worried about safety. Probably someone think that what is the safety in space. So it seems to be difficult to write down this section, but please read the accommodation handbook first, and we need information about some dangerous material or change structural mechanism after the deployment or something. So we would like to ask the applicant to write all information they imagine related to safety. So if it is not related to safety, it's just additional information. So please fill this section much information regarding the safety.
Thank you, Goto-san, for that. That's very important, and safety in space is critical. There are things that come to my mind regarding safety. Maybe batteries. There are some batteries that have the tendency to explode when they are under certain conditions. For instance, if you are using one of those batteries, we want to see that you are taking into account all the safety measures that accompany that battery to avoid that risk to happen. There are some, maybe you are using solar panels that deploy, and to deploy the solar panels and to release them, you are using a pyrotechnic mechanism. Well, if that's the case, we want to see that in safety, how you are taking care of those mechanisms so they don't create damage either to the International Space Station, to the deployer itself, or even to the satellite when the satellite is in operations. So all the different risks that may be coming from your components or from the operations of the satellite, include them here. Include information of which are the risks, and then there is an information for this mitigation later on, and how you are tackling those. That's very important. So, as I mean, it's explained there in the description. So, if there is any hazard, please describe the control mechanisms for that particular hazard. So, read again. I cannot stress it enough. Read the documentation. The GEM payload accommodation handbook is your reference guide, and read carefully the announcement opportunity and read carefully this document. It has a lot of information that is useful. Descriptions, even though, as I said, they are general and they are not meant to tell you exactly what you have to put, they provide you guidance on what to include in the different sections. So next, assembly, integration, and testing. So sometimes, well, you have to assemble the satellite. You come to the point where you have to assemble the satellite. We would like to know about the assembly facilities that you are using. So please describe. If imagine that the assemble facilities, you don't have a clean room, for instance, in your institution, but you are using a clean room that is available for you in another institution. We would like to see that, okay, you are going to use a clean room that is somewhere else or any other assembly facility. And if it is not in your own institution, we would like to see a letter from that institution that you are going to be using the facilities from that is telling us, well, team from country X, from institution X, Y, is going to be using facilities X, Y, and Z for assembly, and they are allowed to use those facilities. That's it. That's what we need. Just to be sure that things are, that you have everything under control and you have seen everything. If the facilities are in your institution, so we assume that you have access to those. So University X has a clean room and you are working in University X. We assume that you follow in the procedures of your institution, you will get access to that facility. Same for testing facility. So in case there are some testing facilities that you don't have and you are working with another institution to do the test of the satellite, then you include the information here, the same as for the assembly facilities. That's very important for us. Test and verification, very important. We want to see the verification plan for the mission requirements. This is what I was telling before, that this flow down. So once you define a requirement, you have to verify that requirement is met. So you have the section on requirements, and here you have the section for verifying each of those requirements. So you have verification plan for the technical requirements, for the mission requirements. So please make the flow down and include. We want to see that when there is a requirement, and we will be checking that, you have it covered in your test and verification. Maybe you cannot detail exactly which are the steps, the test steps, the test procedure or the verification procedure. That's fine, but we want to see that at least you have foreseen one test case for a particular requirement. And maybe you have test cases that are covering several requirements. That's fine. We want to see that there is a coverage of your requirements in your test plan, in your verification plan. Then we are talking about schedule. Please give us an idea of the schedule that you have for the deployment. Well, the deployment is also development. So how you are planning to handle the development. Please read the description. There is important information here because you will have to conduct 2 safety reviews together with JAXA, and those reviews take time. Each one takes a month. So you have to allocate and include that in your development schedule. If you want to know more about the design process, I invite you to just to get the different phases of the design right. I invite you to attend the KiboCUBE Academy webinars that we will have in January. So if you are not familiar with the system engineering or space system engineering, I really invite you to attend those webinars because for CubeSat development, you will get it right. I mean, here we are talking, for instance, a CDR, Critical Design Review. Maybe you don't know what it is. Then that's an indication for you to join the KiboCUBE Academy webinars. Then the operation schedule. So maybe you are deploying the satellite is going to stay in orbit for, I don't know, 1.5 years, but you plan to run a commissioning phase that is going to last 1 month because you want to be checking things on the satellite during 1 month, and then you want to operate the satellite for another 3 months, and then you want to do things for the commissioning the satellite. Well, we want to see all those phases and how you are scheduling those, which after the deployment. We want to see that, okay, 1 month is for the commissioning phase, and the commissioning phase has these different sub-phases. Perfect, no problem. There is guidance here also. And for schedules, we are requesting you that you are providing a Gantt chart. If you don't know what a Gantt chart is, again, I invite you to the KiboCUBE Academy webinars, and also there is plenty of information. Gantt chart is a very standard. Same for what we have here, part of the end of life as a part of the schedule. So the operations that you are conducting for the end of life, the decommissioning phase of the satellite. We want to see space debris mitigation guidelines and the guidelines for the long-term sustainability of outer space applied in your schedule. So how you are taking into account those. So if you have to do passivation of batteries or you have to deplete the batteries, when that is going to happen at the end of the operations. So in your decommissioning phase, end of life phase. We want to see all those different steps listed here and how you plan to execute those steps in a sequence, schedule. Okay, then it comes budget. As I said in the beginning, and it has been said different times today, this opportunity is covering the launch and the deployment cost of the CubeSat. You are getting also support from JAXA on the different safety reviews. But what is covered by the university, by this opportunity is launch, deployment. The rest, which means the design of your CubeSat, the testing of your CubeSat, the different components and assembly of your CubeSat, that's covered by you. If you have, for instance, travel expenses because you need to travel, and let's say you are in country A, but you have a testing facility that is in country B because country B is allowing you to use the facility, and you have to travel, we would like to see that you have budgeted for those costs also. Shipment of CubeSat, you have to, so you are responsible for all the costs up to the point you are handing over the CubeSat to JAXA. And after that, you are still responsible for costs, not for the launch and deployment, but for the operation cost. So we want to see also that you have budgeted for this handover trip and shipment of the CubeSat to JAXA. If you are planning to do dissemination activities, some of the dissemination activities will be free. You don't need to include that, or maybe you just want to show us that you have taken into account all the different elements of your application for the cost, and maybe you are going to do dissemination activities that are for free, but you just include, okay, cost 0 there if you want to give that information. This is important because the cost is the total cost of the total cost that you will have to cover for the CubeSat. Then you will have a budget. It's the money that you have secure, and you have to cover the money that you have to cover the cost that you are incurring. When you are submitting your application, there will be some part of the budget to cover those costs that is secure. Maybe if you are working in a university or a research institution, you have a budget that is assigned from some of the project lines of the institution to this project. Perfect, that's secure budget. But maybe there is a part that is not secure. That's fine. Just indicate that here. And what is your plan to acquire that additional budget, that additional money? As it was said this morning by Hazuki when she was presenting the schedule, KiboCUBE, this round of KiboCUBE is split, the application is kind of split in two. You have the 6 months, we want you to get the application as complete as possible, but we understand that sometimes securing all the budget and asking budget if you have not been preselected is difficult, so we are taking that into account. So you have the first part. If you don't have some of the budget secure, is fine, you just indicate it here, because you will have additional time to secure that budget after, for the once you have been preselected, so you submit your application, then there will be a preselection. When you have been preselected, you can, utilizing the fact that you have been preselected as a KiboCUBE applicant, potentially for winning, you will be able to get additional budget. I mean, because the preselection narrows down basically to institutions that are very likely to get awarded the opportunity. So we will provide you a preselection letter, and you can use that also to try to fundraise the part of the budget that you don't have it secure. So don't get worried if you don't have all the budget when you are submitting your application. That's fine. We want to know what your plans are to acquire that budget. And in the second stage of the application, so after the 31st of March and after the preselection, we will give you time to try to secure that budget. That doesn't mean that you have the money, but you have institutions that are, or budget lines or donors that are providing you with the assurances that your budget will be completed. You will have that time later after the application has been submitted. So no worries if you don't have all the budget secured at the beginning. And that's a big difference, and I think it's a big improvement that has been very much requested for this round of KiboCUBE, that you don't have to have all the budget secure when you're submitting your application. And then, as I said, you have to transport the CubeSat to Japan. We want to see here that you have it covered, that you have been thinking about customs arrangements, about the way you are going to transport the satellite, about the people that is going to travel if there are visa requirements. So all the elements of the transportation to Japan. So you just imagine you have the CubeSat and you want to transport it to Japan. Which are the things that you need to have covered? We want to see that in here. Then licensing and compliance with international guides and regulations. Well, you have to, the satellite has to communicate with Earth. I mean, if you are running an experiment in orbit, you want to get the data down. If you are taking pictures of lakes, you want to get the data down. So you have to transmit that information. You have to have a frequency of the electromagnetic spectrum allocated. And there are procedures to do that. That's done. And there is guidance also in the website. Let me go to the website so you see it. Guidance based on your registration frequency management. So you have the information there. Read that to be sure that you follow the steps for frequency allocation. We also, and again I'm going to go back to a little bit. So remember the web page on the tips that you can access from the Access to Space Forum web page. So you go down there, how to improve your application. There you have a section of space law and regulation. Here, this is a webinar that we conducted together with ITU. So there you have the experts from ITU explaining how to fill a request for a satellite network. I mean, they are using the term satellite network when you are doing the frequency allocation with them. So in here, you have all the information. And we have breaking down the information. There is national space law collection. There is national contact if you are in a country and you need to know more about the registration procedure, how to do it. There is a list of national point of contacts that are liaising with ITU in here. So you check, I cannot stress it more, check the page on the tips for an access to space for all application, because all these are common to the different applications and they are very useful tips for building your application. We have been doing quite an extensive work to provide you as much information as we can to get your application the best that it can be. The same with the space object registration. You have the information there. That particular webinar and that particular section on the tips webpage is covering frequency allocation and space object registration, and also liabilities and other aspects of international space law. Then we want to see the compliance to the debris mitigation guidelines, and the name says they are guidelines. Well, in the access to space for all opportunities, we want to see compliance to the guidelines. For us, it's more than guidelines. We want to see how you are implementing. Part of the effort that we are doing, the office is doing together with JAXA, is to raise awareness about international space law and about international practices and guidelines. This is part of it, and we want you to take this very much into account when you are submitting your application. So you are taking into account the space debris mitigation guidelines and the parts applicable for the guidelines for the long-term sustainability of outer space activity. What we want with that access to space for all, and I cannot stress it more, is to build sustainable and responsible, and I stress the word responsible, capacity to access to space. The responsibility part, the responsible part, we will see it here in the way you are implementing the compliance to those. That's very important. And there are some countries that are requesting an Earth observation license in case you are installing a camera in your CubeSat. You have to check your national law. Again, there is in the web page. So if we go to the space law and regulation, we have a website on national space law collection. You can start with there. Check the resources. I mean, I'm stressing it a lot, and I'm not tired of repeating it because it's important. Check all the resources that we have, because you have a lot of the answers that you may have when you are filling your application in there. So I don't know if there are additional compliances that are required by your national law, though this is the right place to list them there. These two fields are optional. As I said, there are countries that require them and there are countries that don't require them. You have to do the homework to see whether your country requires it or not. If your country requires it, you have to fill it in. It's not optional anymore, it's mandatory. Then we are talking here about feasibility and risk. This is related to the safety that was mentioned before by Goto-san in the previous section. Well, feasibility is you evaluate how feasible is that you are going to be in achieving what you are proposing in your application. I mean, which are the elements that you will see more complicated, which are the elements where you are capitalizing on and you are very sure. So it's a feasibility assessment. Tell us how feasible it is and provide information on why you think that the feasibility is that one. You can say, well, we are 100% sure that everything is going to work perfectly, and because we have years of experience in this, and that. Well, please provide a little bit more information on that experience, because that's supporting your feasibility analysis. And then a risk analysis. And risks and feasibility, they cover all the aspects of your application, right? They cover the CubeSat design, but they cover, for instance, the communication plan that is appearing down there. How feasible is that you are conducting the communication and dissemination plan that you are stating there, and how feasible it is the budget to acquire the budget that you are or the budget to cover the cost that you are specifying in previous sections. And feasibility comes with a risk analysis. So, for instance, budget, feasibility, well, feasibility is medium high because there are risks that we cannot acquire the fund from this particular entity because, I mean, they have not committed 100%, for instance. I mean, just inventing it. So then you write it there. Okay, well, likelihood, I don't know. We are not sure about the donor. The donor was not very sure that it can provide the budget. So maybe it's likely. So it's a 2. It's a risk of likelihood 2, but the impact is minor because we have already been in contact with other donors, and they are happy to kick in if there is a problem with the budget. Perfect. That would be an example of how you have faced the feasibility and the risk, and also about mitigation actions that you have in place. So we have already contacted another donor, and that is solved, and that is explaining your risk assessment. So this is what we want to see here. I mean, we want to have an idea, and you have to be very realistic here. Because it allows you to also to understand your chances of success. It allows us to understand which are the areas where you might need more help or more fine-tuning, or where we have to be more careful at. So it's really an important exercise, and this section 11 is really important. Communication and dissemination plan. We want a communication plan. How you are going to promote the opportunity, how you are going to promote the results that you will be getting from the satellite. We are giving a lot of attention to the initiatives that you are running in the country. So you remember there is a country which is registering the satellite, and with that country, which are the activities that are happening in that country to actually disseminate or raise awareness about this opportunity. You have very nice and good examples. Again, I'm going to go to the website. So we had a section here on how to raise awareness about your project. We have different medias that have been providing their insights on how to better disseminate, but not only that. So if you go down, or if you go up, you see the link here. Experiences from past winners. You see how they did tackle some of the aspects that I mentioned in the application form, and in the particular case of KiboCUBE, I mean, you have examples there from 2 teams. One is a team that has already deployed a satellite, which is the team of Guatemala. They deployed their satellite in April this year, and you have another team that is currently working on it, and they provide insights on how they did their communication and dissemination. So use all the information that you have available. Supporting documents. If you have support letters from those institutions that are allowing you to use their test facilities, or support letters from people that said, or donors that said, or institutions that said that they are going to provide funding to fund your project, please include all that information, all those supporting documents in here. In here, we are not asking that you are putting the documents in this box. We are asking you to provide a list of the supporting documents that you are providing, and then attach those documents as separate PDF files to your application. You can include them in annexes. You can say supporting document number 1, a letter from donor to secure X amount of money. Perfect. So we know that we go to section supporting letter number 1 or annex 1 if you are putting it in an annex, and that's a letter that we have to find. It helps you to organize all the information and to see whether there are missing things, and it helps us when we are evaluating the application to see whether there is a piece of information that by chance it happened that you have forgotten to attach. So we can go back to you and ask you for that piece of information. And then the last section is about abbreviations and references. I mean, maybe there are abbreviations that are very commonly used in the space or in the sector that you're using. Please list them here. There are many different acronyms that are used in many different ways in different places. So don't get for granted that we are going to understand your acronym. Sometimes we will be able to do that. Some of the times we will not be able. So we want the list here if you're using acronyms. And I think that's all what I wanted to say about the application form. Goto-san, if you have anything else on your application, on the application form?
Thank you for explanation. I don't have any other information for the application form. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me stop sharing my screen now. I don't know if there have been questions. So if there have been questions, now is the time to answer them. If there have not been questions, well, it means that everything was clear, but I really invite you to check all the documentation.
Yes, Jorge. So one question we had was, while preparing for the application, can we contact you, which I think is UNOOSA and JAXA, if we have questions or if we want to have some clarifications about some items? How can we contact you? Is the only question we had.
Okay. So yeah, there is no problem in contacting us. We prefer you that you are not approaching JAXA directly because people in JAXA is handling a 1,000 projects at a time. So just to avoid that they are getting questions that we can answer, so we will be dealing with the questions first, and then you see a big email address when you can add the questions to us. So drop an email to that email address, stating your question, and we will get back to you shortly. If we have to liaise with JAXA because it's a very technical detail of the GEM payload accommodation handbook or something like that, we will contact JAXA, and it will take a little bit more time, but we will definitely answer to all your questions. Don't hesitate. If you have questions, don't hesitate. Use us to improve your application.
Okay, thank you, Jorge and Goto-san. I think that is all we have for the questions. I believe that was a lot of information for everyone to get in. So as Jorge and both Goto-san said, please read all the documents on the website. As Goto-san mentioned, we will put up the new handbook URL as soon as it is ready, and I'll make sure that to put it in red to make sure that you'll understand that it's been updated. So please make sure to keep checking our website, and also please make sure to answer our questionnaire form before you leave. So thank you so much for your participation. We will try to put on the presentations and the recordings as soon as possible so that you can share to your colleagues and your friends or anyone who has not been able to participate. So again, thank you so much for participating in this webinar, and we really look forward to receiving a lot of applications. Thank you so much.